Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today's Tuesday, 22nd of April. It's 10:07 in the morning. We're going to hit 94 degrees today. If that ain't summer, I don't know what is. But then it's going to cool off again. The weather's really weird. There's a sign there. Very few people are picking up on it. But it's taking place all over the world. Heat wave records are being broken. Like, I think there was like 4 in the last few days. It's crazy. God's showing people things and they're not paying attention. Okay, today is a very important broadcast. I called it a red alert because I'm going to unpack to you all the things going on in Israel and with Israel and against Israel with Trump and China and Egypt and Hamas and Lebanon and Syria and Iran, especially Iran, and a lot on Trump. And now China's involved, and China today, I would have to say, is in the siege against Israel because they're on our border in Egypt with advanced jets. They got these jets, they call them the J-10. They're not a 5th generation jet, they call it a 4.5 generation. So it's an advanced jet. And they're conducting military exercises with Egypt, and Egypt has over 100,000 troops on our border. And I'm going to unpack that for you. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. It's not so simple. It's rather complicated. And gold almost hit 3,500. It got to 30. The highest I saw was 34.88. It may have been higher. And the dollar index is down, the S&P is down, everything's down all at the same time. It's not good. Manufacturers are upping prices on goods they make in China and sell here by a large amount. And money is going to get a lot tighter in America because price of goods from China are going to go up, and if they try to make these goods in America, they're likely going to cost more money if you can even get the products, cost more money than they are by paying the tariffs that Trump has put on it. It's a mess, guys, but the war is the big concern, and America turning against Israel. In Jeremiah 50:51, which is the daughter of Babylon passages, the famous ones, also Isaiah 47, it says that America will do evil in our sight. And the word for sight is ayin, which means eyes. So they translated it kind of okay, really. But when you think about it, what it means is you're going to be watching them do evil. So we need to start unpacking what we think now would be the reason for America to have troops in Israel. And it looks like Netanyahu is in fact going to do a strike on Iran. And there's a nefarious thing going on here, and I'm going to unpack it for you. It's a way for Trump to attack Iran without worrying about getting impeached and without getting in trouble because he didn't go to Congress to get a declaration of war. And it's really playing Israel as a puppet or a proxy, and it could cost Israel a lot of damage. Israel is conducting military exercises, practicing for an Iranian missile attack on Israel. It looks like it's all about to come unglued rather quickly. And we're going to unpack it, and you're going to have to listen hard because it has a lot of moving pieces. Netanyahu has a very serious threat to being thrown out of office. And there's people that were in the government and are in the government and know people in the government. They're saying Netanyahu wants to suspend elections. And I think it's true. the next election is in 2026, and we're going to unpack this. And you might see Netanyahu get kicked out of office, either by a vote of no confidence or forced out. Now he's saying he's not going to end the Gaza war based on just getting hostages back. Well, that's creating a lot of unpopular resentment in Israel. And we'll unpack all of this, but I'm telling you, it's reaching a boiling point here. And you need to understand that the triggers for the big so-called, for lack of a better word, catastrophic end times events is Israel, not Ukraine, not Russia, not China, not Taiwan, not America, not Canada, not Mexico cartels, none of that. It's going to be Israel. And if you study the Bible, you need to know that. Now, the advantage you're going to have from listening to me is, as far as I can tell, I'm the only one digging deep into the news and applying it to correct Bible prophecy, not the junk in the Schofield Bible and the Darby Bible. Okay? The real Bible prophecies that are right there in your Bible, and we'll touch on them today, several of them for sure. Okay? And this is important because we're really headed into a big storm right now. China with Egypt on our border. What do you think? When's Russia going to show up in the Middle East? You know, Syria, the new government in Syria is trying, in my opinion, they're trying to get Russia to give back Bashar Assad to them. So they would, at best, hold a quick tribunal trial and then probably hang him off construction equipment on TV in front of everybody. But I'm pretty sure they also want the many, many billions of dollars, I think it's in the hundreds, that Bashar Assad moved out of the control of the Syrian government hours before he left. Likely it's in Russia. And Putin is, as a rule, very loyal to his allies, which Bashar Assad was. And obviously, Bashar Assad asked for permission for asylum in Russia and got permission to also take the money. So you don't just shift hundreds of billions of dollars if you're the leader of a government all of a sudden. So he had to send it to Russia. Or maybe he sent it to China, but probably sent it to Russia. I don't think Putin's going to be very quick to betray Bashar Assad, but he does want his bases back in Syria. And if Satan pushes Putin enough, Putin could likely give up Bashar Assad, probably not the money, but they may buy that in return for being able to move his fleet, Navy vessels back into the Latakia base on the Mediterranean, and also bring aircraft back into his air base, walking distance, long walk, from the Latakia Navy base. These bases are still intact, but there's very, very few Russian troops on them. But there are some, probably to avoid looting and burning it and things of this nature, So they're obviously negotiating about this, and will Putin decide to do this? Well, that puts Russian troops on our other border with Syria, along with Turkish troops there already. But Turkey and Russia don't get along. But if Russia gets a good military force back into Syria, he might help Iran move back into Syria, and they may just get rid of this Giuliani HTS government in Syria running it at the present time, which would be bad for Israel and bad for a lot of people. So things are pretty hot right now, especially since we might see some serious attempts to remove Netanyahu, probably through a vote of no confidence. And Netanyahu might use that to, well, he may get scared enough, because if he's not prime minister, you got to know this. He has 3 criminal cases active for years now, and he keeps stalling them. I can't testify. I've got the war. I've got to deal with this. He shows up in court. He starts testifying, and then all of a sudden, an aide comes in with an emergency, and he has to leave, go to a secure location, make command decisions, and the court doesn't have the ability to really stop that. They don't know if it's true or not. Probably true or blown up or whatever. So he keeps stalling his cases for years. The reason he keeps stalling his cases for years is he's scared. There's 3 counts, total 16 years in jail. I don't think they'd give him 16 years. They'd probably give him 2 to 4, but he would be removed from politics completely, never allowed to go back in again, probably not be able to be the head of the Likud party, the biggest political party in Israel. And then who runs the government? But would Netanyahu sit still for this, or would he do something like attack Iran, throw Israel into chaos to save his own skin, and then declare martial law? Or would he go further and arrange for Israel to be destroyed? Because if there's no more political structure in Israel, well, how's he going to go to jail? What jail? What court? See what I'm saying? He doesn't want to die in jail. He doesn't know he's going to get 2 to 4 years. Maybe you give him 10 or 12 years and he'll die in jail for sure. He's running around with a surgically implanted pacemaker. You know, he's scared. And he's a narcissist. Look, these people would easily sacrifice millions and millions of their citizens to keep themselves out of jail. They'd even do it to keep themselves in power, let alone lose power and wind up in a prison. We've had prime ministers and presidents of Israel go to jail. At one point a few years ago, we had a former president and a former prime minister in jail at the same time. The head of Shin Bet is moving against them mightily, using the Attorney General, which means the Supreme Court, and releasing to them classified documents. And he's probably going to release more because he knows what Netanyahu's doing, dragging out the Gaza war so he doesn't have to face his criminal cases. There's scandals like crazy. Qatar officials giving money to people close to Netanyahu and his administration to monkey with the negotiations in Gaza. So they received all this money, Netanyahu knows about it, and they didn't kick back to Netanyahu. You believe that? I don't. And stuff's being revealed now, and it may be the end of Netanyahu, but there's one way for Netanyahu to stop it: martial law and then no elections. And we don't see any signs of the government. Well, we do, but it's indirect. The government may be in shambles when 2 witnesses appear. So things are getting hotter and hotter. Now, I'm going to go into the live stream, and then we're going to get into it. And I want to tell you that it's got a lot of moving pieces, and it's not super easy to understand, okay? My computer got a little stuck here. I don't know what's cooking here. I see the problem. Okay. I hope my moderators are here, and I thank them immensely for helping me so I don't have to be distracted with the people going in and putting nasty posts up. Supposedly, there's Russian submarines off of Germany. Whatever the implications of that are, I don't know. It could just be positioning. I don't think it's a lot else. Let me make sure we got sound in the picture, and we'll get going. Sorry I'm kind of late today, but there's so much news, and I finally just said, okay, enough's enough. I couldn't keep sitting there all day and absorbing the news. It's just massive. How do you deal with coming from the tribes? Well, right now, there's not any good way to deal with it. The DNA is not accurate because the DNA depends on who the rabbis put in the database. So it's you can't. I don't know how you can tell unless you know because your family passed it down. Well, you have to, what the rabbis that run Israel say is you've got to go to an Orthodox rabbi and you got to prove to them your mother was Jewish. And Netanyahu is against Aliyah, Jews coming to Israel. So they made it very, very difficult to do right now. If you want to ask a question, just put it up in the chat. Well, we've certainly had a lot of bad comments up in the chat, as per normal. Okay, I'm told that when you put something up about China, the trolls swarm in and try to wreck your chat. I don't do comments anymore because it was so obnoxious. What I could do is restore comments, but they don't get posted until I get a chance to review them or delete them or post them or kick them out or delete them. And I might do that again. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I had so much trouble in the past with it. I cut it off. All right. I'm going to do some praise and we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. So let's jump into the heart of it with the Chinese military in Egypt conducting military drills for at least 2, maybe 3 days now, and we don't have any word on when they're leaving, if they're leaving. With the Egyptian army, over 100,000 are in the Sinai Peninsula on our border, and they're also to the south of Gaza on our border, sort of, but really the Gaza border, but that's ours anyway. But anyway, and the Egyptians are violating the Camp David Accord, which the Americans are supposed to enforce, and Trump is doing nothing about it. Nothing, not a thing. And the Egyptians can't come up with any good explanation why they did this. They're saying, oh, it's to stop the Gazans from flowing into Egypt. I would give that a 5% chance of reality. Less. I mean, it's a joke. You put 2, 3, 4,000 soldiers up there with a few dozen tanks, and they built fences and barriers with man-made mountains to stop them from coming in. They're not coming in. Okay. The Israeli military is on the border with Gaza and Egypt, inside Gaza. They're not coming in. It's nonsense. They're threatening us. So what is really happening is there's a multiple threat taking place here, and it's rather serious, especially with this idiot Netanyahu, this mean person running the country of Israel. Now, the threat level works like this. It's to back up the Egyptians, okay? And they've already given the Egyptians some advanced 4.5 generation jets. They call it a J-10, I think. It's not like an F-35 or an F-22, but it's got some features and benefits with some stealth capability. It's not a simple jet to take out of the skies, but it's not as dangerous as an F-35 or an F-22 or a B-1 or a B-2. So you might say it's like in between an F-16 and a F-35, or you might say it's like one of those stealthy F-16s, which is not fully stealthed. Something like that. These things probably require months of training, so I don't think there's an immediate thing going on. The Egyptians can likely decide that they want an end to the Gaza war. Okay? Trump has not shown himself to be mighty. Attacking Yemen is, I would say, impressive to a degree in terms of giving Trump, let's call it like the rappers say, street creds. He's getting some credibility, but his success in attacking the Houthis in Yemen has been somewhat successful for sure. We haven't had a missile again for a few days coming in from the Houthis in Yemen. Now, I believe the reason for that is China trades with Israel a lot, and we don't put sanctions on China. And our stores are full of Chinese goods, full of them. It's hard to find appliances here that are not made in China. Now, you can get stuff here made in Germany that's good. I mean, it's excellent. It's not good. But a lot of these German brands are manufacturing the stuff in Turkey and Bulgaria and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful to make sure it was really made in Germany. And they're rather expensive. They're 2.5, 3 times the price of the Chinese goods. Now, we've bought Chinese goods with some success. We bought South Korean stuff and had an expensive refrigerator and had a bad failure with the thing. And we had to throw it away. Okay? So this stuff does work. The German stuff works a lot better and a lot longer. It's really good stuff. But the Chinese stuff's not that shabby either. Okay? We had a Chinese washing machine that lasted at least 5 years, and it was pretty low price. Okay, so there's a lot of commerce, and China's in the mood for more commerce right now because they're suffering with the Trump sanctions. So I think they told the Houthis to cut it out with attacking Israel right now. Israel may have told them, we know you're giving weapons to the Houthis, which I believe is entirely the truth. Possibly they give them to Iran, who then gives them to the Houthis just to stay at a distance of it. But we were managing to take them down at the rate of 100%. So, but it was disturbing to Israel. So I think they told the Houthis to cut it off. Okay. But they're still using, well, I believe, Chinese weapons to attack American warships, which is causing the American warships to stay at a far distance from the Houthis, and that's documented. Now, Muslim media, Muslim pro-terrorist media is full of stories that the Houthis have disabled the Harry Truman and all that. Listen, about 2 days ago, I guess he's the captain or the commander of the Harry Truman aircraft carrier, did a video showing American jets taking off of the deck to attack the Houthis. So there's no basis in this. They lie and they lie and they lie. If they fire a missile at Tel Aviv, they say we rained, bombs down on Tel Aviv. Well, all they did was aim a missile at Tel Aviv and it never showed up. We took it down. So, I mean, their lies are absolutely insane. If they launch a missile at something, they say they attacked it, they hit it, it's nonsense. Yesterday or the day before, they launched a missile and it fell down in the capital of Yemen and it hit somebody's house. That's how stupid they are. All right, these people can barely read and write. They can't make missiles like this. Okay? So what America's doing is just staying out of range of the missiles, most likely from China. And there are a lot of anti-ship missiles which go at, I believe, Mach 2.5. They're dangerous. So if America's out of range, well, number one, they got a lot of warning time before the thing comes to them. It's not like they got 12 seconds. They got, a warning time, and they could get good defenses up in multi-layers and take them down, and the ships don't get hit. That doesn't mean the Houthis are going to stop. Why would they stop? They're keeping the American warships away from them. Okay? So Trump's just taken a policy of continued 24/7 bombing from both aircraft carriers and occasionally from a B-2 bomber in Diego Garcia, and figures that it's just going to be a matter of time and he's going to disable the Houthis to a tremendous extent. Now, there is going to be a ground invasion in Yemen, so it seems, not by America directly or by Israel directly, so I need to explain. Like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. The Yemen government is making a lot of noises. How true they are, I don't know. I think they're true. They're afraid Trump is going to demolish their country, and they're not interested in seeing their country go down the drain because the Houthis want to prove a point and Iran's paying them lavishly. They become multimillionaires. So what are they doing? They're getting ready to attack the Houthis in the positions they hold in Yemen on the ground. They have tanks, they have armored personnel, they have helicopters, they have some aircraft, nothing advanced, but they have stuff. And they're getting backed up too. They're getting extra help, tens of thousands of extra bodies to come in and help them. Now, the thought is that they will attack the Houthis with a lot of American air cover and a lot of American intel. Okay? So all the movements of the Houthis will be picked up by American drones, reconnaissance aircraft, boots on the ground, whatever. Maybe Israel helps. Maybe not. I don't know. Probably not. It's not needed. And if the Houthis get the Yemen government pinned down and boxed in and they're going to attack them, well, or they have a platoon under attack by, maybe they got, 70, 100 guys, the Yemen government, and they're being attacked by 450 Houthis. They'll call for several jets to come in and bomb the enemy. Or they may call for 8-10 warthogs, which they have a bunch of in the Middle East. I don't know how many. I would say somewhere between 25 and 50 or something like that. Maybe less. I don't know. They don't talk. And come in and strafe them with their radar-controlled guns and just annihilate them. So they would make the regular Yemen army with this air support and good intel act like an army that was maybe 5 or 10 times bigger. Okay? They may even give them weapons. I haven't heard that, but they might. And they're going to hope that the Yemen government disarms and breaks up the Houthis in Yemen. That problem goes away. Of course, they're going to fall out of relations with Iran if they do this, and it looks like they likely will. And the Saudis are helping them also. Exactly how is a little bit cloaked by them, but could be intelligence gathering, it could be money, it could be weapons, we don't know, but it appears help from the Saudis is there. So Saudi Arabia is, on one hand, they're not with America anymore, and then on the other hand, they are. It looks like they are, for real. And the UAE is also helping, sending mercenaries over there to help the Yemen government army. And now the Houthis have threatened the UAE yesterday. They said, we know what you're doing, and we're going to, get revenge on you. So now they're saying they're going to attack the UAE. And I'm sure that same thing will happen with Saudi Arabia. So this brings us back to Trump and his 24/7 bombings to try to get rid of as much infrastructure, leaders, vehicles, weapons storage, command centers, operating bases, radar, I think they already took out, and get them very, very weak. And then the Yemen regular army will move in, okay? The idea would be to kill them or capture them, or maybe just demilitarize them. American soldiers, boots on the ground in Yemen, highly doubtful, except, Green Berets to give them advice, advisors, Delta, Navy SEALs. Maybe they would go in small numbers, like, several groups of 10 that would go on special operations there based on boots in the ground intel and technical intel and destroy Houthi very important locations, maybe weapons storage, where the leaders are running the war against Yemen and stuff like that. Okay? Now, we may not see a real serious effort here. It may just be a tap dance to keep Trump from demolishing their country. We don't know yet, but I think it's going to be somewhat real. The Houthis have not stopped the war against the Palestinians by Israel. They're not likely to stop it. And they're likely to see the destruction of Yemen as a result of it. So the government of Yemen is saying, cut it out, you idiots. It's not working. No, we're not. We're all millionaires, the leaders. That we're getting lots of money from Iran. We're not cutting it out. The Houthis are not going to go out and get money to rebuild Yemen when it gets over. They can't go to the World Bank and get money, but the government of Yemen will have to. So that's a debt that's placed on the government, weakens their economy, weakens their currency, weakens investments, more of a tax burden on the people, and so forth. The government of Yemen could do absolutely nothing to stop the Houthis other than force. They're not stopping. And Trump's not stopping, and they can't do anything to make Trump stop. The only thing they could do is say, okay, we'll do a ground invasion, ease up on us. And Trump is trying to do what they call surgical strikes on Houthis and Houthi assets and targeted assassinations. And if this keeps up over time, it will work. Now, the last straw here, or the last phase, is to make the Houthis so weak as soon as they can to stop their capability of sending drones and missiles to the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Okay? Because they don't want those oil refineries blown up. A lot of moving pieces. Another problem is they want the Houthis significantly disabled, if not completely disabled, when the attack in Iran comes. Now, we are attacking in Lebanon just about every day. We just a few hours ago hit a site up near Beirut, Lebanon, the capital, which I think was Hezbollah missiles. Now, Hezbollah has not been shooting at us, and Iran is giving missiles to Sudan in the Red Sea on the Africa side near the Mediterranean, so to speak. And the Sudan people are attempting to smuggle these weapons into Hezbollah by boat. And I think they got some weapons in, but we stopped, I'm sure, the boats from moving in with weapons. Or not, but I believe that's been curtailed. Where does all this take us? Well, it takes us to Iran. They don't want the Houthis attacking Israel and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and the UAE when somebody, Israel or America, puts an attack on Iran. And the only way to assure themselves of this is to blow all their weapons up. And that's what the Trump is doing. Apparently, America likes keeping the HTS government in power in Syria for now. Why? HTS can't stand Iran, and HTS is not exactly on kissing terms with Russia because Russia is keeping Bashar Assad and the many hundreds of billions of dollars that he ripped off from Syria, which the government of Syria desperately needs that money to come back. And, I would say Putin probably took a 30% to a 50% commission on that money, knowing how Putin would operate. And Putin's not likely to give billions and billions of dollars back to them. But as the pressure from NATO and America increases, Putin keeps thinking, well, a Navy base in Syria would sure be attractive. Now, Turkey and Russia don't get along. So America let Turkey move lots of military into central Syria. And that would be a check and balance of a lousy nature, but still a check and balance. So it's a mess. Okay. Putin would like to get those bases back, but if he starts saying, okay, here's Bashar Assad back, then Iran won't trust them, China won't trust them, North Korea won't trust them, Belarus won't trust them, and on down the line. So Putin knows better. America makes that mistake. And a lot of people don't trust America. So I'm giving you some insights that you're not going to get from these people that run these information channels that don't live in the Middle East. They don't go through social media getting stuff from the Muslim terrorists in the Arab countries. They don't do that. They don't get stuff from the Hebrew social media, the Israelis, who know a lot. They don't get this stuff. Okay? So they don't see the insights, and they don't understand Bible prophecy. All you ever hear from them is Gog and Magog, Gog and Magog. Well, that's not for now. Let me take a gander at the live stream and see if I'm getting questions. I do try to answer questions. And I do also take prayer requests. Well, someone said it's false. Well, tell me what you're saying is false. Anybody could just come out there and say false. What's false? Based on what? I'm perfectly happy to defend myself, but you just attack. You don't give any specifics. So it's a worthless attack, isn't it? All right. One of the funny things in Israel is we don't put sanctions on China. So Chinese stuff gets taxed at 17% as it comes into Israel. That's it. Like anything else, like American goods and stuff like that. Same tax. European goods, same tax. So trying to figure out, we're still getting Chinese goods. And of course, I think China needs business right now. So they're telling the Houthis to lay off us. But they're here to threaten us about Gaza. They're not going to say, we're going to attack Israel if you don't make a good ceasefire deal with Gaza, with Hamas. No. They're there to back Egypt. And Egypt is now negotiating, and there's negotiations now in Cairo with Israel about Hamas. So Egypt's starting to put pressure on us. There was telephone SMS messages sent to the people in Gaza last night, or even probably last night or yesterday afternoon. It could have been this morning as well, saying come to this certain location and you could learn all about your options to leave Gaza if you want to leave Gaza. It's not you have to leave Gaza, there's a bayonet in your back. No, if you want to leave Gaza, come here. And it would be an Israeli guy inside Gaza, a puppet or I don't know, but some guy. And here they call him a captain, which is a slang term for an Israeli agent in Gaza. And he would be Arabic and probably Arabic speaking. And, come to him and, you'll hear all about the different options. Basically, The people leaving Gaza are a very small drop in the bucket, not a drop in the bucket, a small, minuscule drop in the bucket. There's over 2 million people there, probably now about 2.4 million, 2.35, something like that. And they're getting a few thousand, like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 to leave. They're not getting any substantial numbers, anything like that. And they're not forcing them out. And Trump stopped talking about, resorts and gambling casinos and stuff in Gaza. That doesn't mean he forgot about it. He stopped talking about it. He's not talking about Greenland, but that doesn't mean he forgot about it. He's not talking about it right now. And Russia doesn't want that Greenland thing to happen at all. The negotiations between Trump and Iran seem to be idiotic. Iran is talking about reducing the uranium, maybe reducing the yield, and things like this. And Trump started out, we want to see your nuclear facilities destroyed with boots on the ground witnesses to see that destruction is total and can't be rebuilt. And they're saying, no, it's not on the table. And then Trump is dancing with them. So they meet again Wednesday on technical issues, which would probably be how much uranium, what percentage of, radioactivity or whatever it is, and blah, 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 blah. So Trump is dancing a dance with Iran for a stupid deal that Iran is just going to break. Okay? They are truce breakers, these people. Okay? And now comes what? Trump doesn't want to start just telling Iran, listen, negotiations are over. We're going to send our special forces in. They're going to plant explosives inside your nuclear facilities, do remote detonations, go back and make sure these whole things have caved in, collapsed, and destroyed. Then we'll take the sanctions off you to some extent if you behave. And that means you can't back the proxies, especially the idiots blocking traffic in the Red Sea and so forth, right? Now remember, the Houthis are saying if there's a good ceasefire in Gaza where Israel leaves, listen hard, please, it's important. Israel pulls out permanently, they're going to stop attacking the ships and stop attacking Israel. Now, Egypt runs the Suez Canal, which is at we call it the top of the Red Sea by the Mediterranean, where Egypt is. And they collect a major hunk of their gross national product, their income to the country is coming from the tolls there. Now, at least 80, probably 90, I would say it's probably in the 90-something% of the ship traffic is not going through the Red Sea, i.e. not going through the Suez Canal, i.e. Egypt is losing 80 or 90 or 94% or something of their revenue. China sends some ships through, and Russia and other friendlies, okay, like Iran. And it's also being told that a ship that's not on the friendly list of the Houthis can pay them a ransom or a toll, in other words, shakedown money. So they pay the shakedown money and then they can pass through the Red Sea without being fired on. There's not enough merchant marine vessels out there for the Houthis to attack with any threat value. So Egypt could be working with China, and as evidenced by current negotiations in Cairo, as I'm sitting here today now, to shut down this Gaza war, okay, and get Israel to completely leave Gaza and leave Hamas there to kill us another day and get out of the Rafah crossing area, which is where Egypt is, so they could allow the smuggling of weapons in to Gaza. Likely Iran brings the weapons to Egypt, gives Egypt money under the table to allow the weapons to be transferred in. So Sisi and the other jerks are lining their pockets and stuff like that. This isn't money that's going to go into the national treasury, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't. Maybe they do. I don't. So they're profiteering off this war, and they've been doing this for years. They've allowed the smuggling in, probably of at least 5,000 to 10,000 big tractor trailer loads of cement to make all these tunnels, maybe 15,000, 20,000 truckloads. It's huge. They're a party to it. And Netanyahu keeps negotiating with them, and they're sticking the knife in our back and twisting it, and he keeps negotiating with them. He's an idiot, this Netanyahu creature. He's a moron, but he's vicious and dangerous, okay? He's not a narcissist. He's the narcissist of narcissists. Okay, he would throw millions under the bus for his own sake to stay out of jail and stay in power. That's the problem. So now they got China with them. So what does Egypt want? Well, if Israel pulls out of Gaza completely, the Houthis stop, ship traffic passes through the Suez Canal, ka-ching, ka-ching, their cash register starts ringing again, their economy gets back, which means they got less threat of an overthrow by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, and the people fare better and all that stuff, right? Now, this isn't exactly what Trump wants. Trump wants his dominance in the Middle East, not Egypt's, not Iran's, not Russia, not China, America. So Trump is not on board with this because it's going to happen again. And if China pushes him here, next China starts doing the same thing in Iran on a bigger level. 14 Chinese warships dock in Iran, 80,000 troops with jets and helicopters and tanks come over there and conduct military exercises with Iran. And then the idea is to get Trump to lift the sanctions off of China and off of Iran. And then they go back to dominating the world and breaking America economically using the BRICS. You don't hear this because there are people that are aware of this out there on the internet that are not Bible students or believers, but you don't hear much about it. I'm going to take a break. We'll come back and dig deeper. But remember, what can go wrong? Plenty. Now, some of you more astute people might say, and correctly so, why doesn't Egypt just go join in the fight against the Houthis in Yemen? Because they're killing their income stream. A large amount of their money, I think you're in around the 30% of their money comes from this. Yeah, we had a little buffering. We're back. Now I got the screen too big. I don't know how to reduce that, but we'll just leave it. So the reason Egypt doesn't join against the Houthis is the Houthis are friendly with another Shiite lunatic fringe group called the Muslim Brotherhood. And Egypt is full of the Muslim Brotherhood, and they would love to overthrow the Egyptian government. I mean, that's their dream. And Sisi, the head of Israel, who's supposedly half Jewish, is scared to death of them, and he's become a tyrant leader, using his intelligence people to go after them hot and heavy all the time and keep them in check and spy on them and see what they're up to. And if he starts attacking another Muslim group trying to liberate Palestine and help the Arabs in Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood could encourage a violent overthrow of the government of Egypt and get rid of Sisi. So that's why they're not going in. He can't. He's scared. So he's all for Trump bombing the daylights out of these characters. But Trump hasn't been that successful. They're still attacking shipping to the point where ships are afraid to go there. So they got to go all the way around Africa, and it adds 10, 14 days to the trip, a lot of expenses, slows the shipping down. The ship is tied up for longer, the containers are tied up for longer, the goods are sitting on the water longer instead of being, delivered, and it's a problem. The Houthis bit off more than they could chew, and it's rather obvious that China's backing the Houthis too. Because their ships can freely go through the Red Sea, although once by mistake they attacked, or maybe twice, a Chinese ship, they cut that stuff out. And that's probably in exchange for the missiles. So, anti-ship missiles and other kinds of missiles. So, the Houthis let all the Chinese ships go through for free. That helped China, economically, because they could move goods faster and things like that. But Trump's sanctions have crushed any benefit they got from that. So they don't sit there on CNN and tell you what China's doing and that kind. They don't tell you that. How many people in America know China's conducting large military exercises in Egypt with the Egyptian army right now? Almost nobody, right? Shin Bet is something like a cross between the FBI and the CIA in Israel, but it only operates inside Israel. Now, it's also going to operate in Gaza and Syria and Lebanon and stuff like that, but it doesn't operate in Germany or Taiwan or none of that, okay? It's a crack outfit, okay? And the head of the Shin Bet. See, October 7th was allowed to happen, and there's probably 1 or 2 million people in Israel that are aware of that. And Netanyahu, well, we were supposed to have an independent investigation about October 7th. So some company or country or something, probably a company, was supposed to do the investigation. It never happened. Netanyahu suppressed it. So he had the military and Shin Bet investigated, and of course they were all in on it, so they were all scratching each other's back, and it got nowhere. But people had to get blamed, so Netanyahu was blaming Shin Bet, not himself. And this has placed a sour taste in the people's mouths about Netanyahu. So now Netanyahu goes to fire the Shin Bet guy for no good reason. And the attorney general comes out and says, you can't fire him. You don't have any cause. That's because he's on her side. It's a she, the AG. The Shin Bet head is on her side. They want to get rid of Netanyahu for a lot of reasons. One big reason is Netanyahu is dragging out the war in Gaza to keep himself out of court on his criminal cases. Soldiers are getting killed. We're getting nowhere. The hostages are still hostages. 25% of the tunnels have been destroyed. It should be 95%. He blows houses up, targeted assassinations, anything to keep the war going. You do a targeted assassination, yeah, it has some effect, and they bump the next guy up, and then the next guy, and the next guy. It never really stops it completely. Combining that with blowing up their facilities and blowing up their weapons and command center and all, yeah, it does work. So Netanyahu probably sees the writing on the wall with China and Egypt, although the Israelis are not talking much about that at all. I think a lot of them are marginally aware of it and don't understand what's going on. Okay, so Netanyahu might see that this is coming to an end because Egypt's had it. Egypt is going to put tremendous pressure on Israel, which it's doing right now, to end the war for real. Now, if Netanyahu does that, then the AG and the Supreme Court are going to accelerate Trump's trial. And it may go for a month or two or less. It may go for 2-3 weeks. I don't know. There are no jury trials in Israel. They tell us we're a democracy, but we have no constitution and we have no jury trials. What's that tell you? And we got gun control, which never used to be anywhere near as bad as the way Netanyahu made it. What's that tell you? So Netanyahu needs another war, or the court's going to have at him. Well, if the Gaza war stops, which it looks like it will, there's not much in Lebanon to fight. We're not going to fight Saudi Arabia or Jordan as it looks now. There's really nobody to fight in Syria or Iraq. They're playing pretty calm. What's left? Bomb, Iran. Okay. Now, this works out conveniently for Trump and Netanyahu. So the talk is Netanyahu is going to bomb the nuke facilities, and it's probably true because so many cargo planes with weapons have been coming into Israel from America to our Nevatim base in South Israel. I don't think Israel needs these bombs to attack Gaza, not that quantity. Nor Lebanon, nor Syria. I mean, so it's for Iran. What these weapons are, I don't know. They're not telling us. And why should they? They have a right to keep it secret. So Netanyahu may see that Gaza is coming to an end. Okay? So he does a strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities. But now comes the moving pieces that I have to unpack for you. Okay? This is how Trump and Netanyahu appear to be working together. And it seems to be rather brilliant. Let me see what's cooking in the chat for a second. I'm for God and I'm for Israel. That's who I'm for. Okay? Not man. Scripture says, cursed be the man that trusteth in man. You want to go trust in a man? Go ahead. I don't. All the nations of the world right now at this age, the age isn't over yet, but soon will be, are working with the devil. That's it. If you don't understand that, then you won't get it. Okay. In order to hit the nuclear facilities, first, Netanyahu has to worry about the missile cities. Okay? Which is probably 12, and they're built into sides of mountains full of rock. They develop them with a natural cave and then expand it. Very much like the so-called nuclear doomsday bunker in Colorado that the government runs to in America. But he's got 12 of these. Iran's got 12 of these. How he's going to blow them up is over my head. I don't get it. Will the massive ordnance penetrator bomb do the job? Would the mother of all bombs do the job? We don't know. We don't think so. What about if you repeated it like you did it with, 5 or 10 bombs in the same location? As far as I know, nobody's done this, so we don't know what'll happen. Could work. But Israel doesn't have any capability of carrying these bombs, other than putting them in a cargo plane and parachuting them down with some kind of JDAM attachment to make them surgically accurate. And we have cargo planes, so that could work. Cargo planes are very vulnerable, even to the Iranian air defense systems. So the radar in Iran has to be taken out. The most important ones to take out would be the over-the-horizon radar. That Iran would use to direct missiles to come into Israel, which is a little more than 1,000 miles. Now, in the past, they tried using Iraq radar as well, which is a lot closer to Israel. If Iraq ever rebuilt this radar, then Israel has to take that out as well, which Israel doesn't care about. They could do that easy steezy. There's no radar left in Syria. Jordan's not going to help them. So if Iraq ever rebuilt their radar, got new radar, which is rather not likely, then they take it out, which is child's play for Israel. It's so close, it's so easy. We know exactly where it is. We got 40 something, I think, or at least 40 or 39 or something F-35s that we've modified. And that's an easy deal. Easy steezy, nothing to it. We have 8 or 9 refueling tankers now. Of course, America will give us more if we need them, probably will. So Israel starts with Iraq. Now Iran knows what's coming, okay? Now we might launch a wave of jets and a few of them fall off in Iraq and go take out the radar, which isn't going to be an extensive array, while the rest of the planes move on to Iran, refueling before they get over the Persian Gulf, probably. In Iraq, after the radar's gone, we could refuel in Iraq near the Persian Gulf and things like this, right? We could refuel over Jordan, you know. And then there'd be a lot of cyber warfare. Maybe the power grid goes out in Iran. GPS jamming. And we start hitting the radar. And we're capable of doing that. We've proved it before, and we can do it again. Now, this is going to disable Iran's over-the-horizon radar, reducing the threat to Israel. But they got other kinds of radar on mobile missile platforms that are like, you know, Mack trucks with a lowboy with 2 missile launchers, and it has its own radar. They could use this mobile radar on trucks that keeps moving to launch to Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and then they could have Iraq attack Jordan, and they could try to get to the UAE, and the Houthis might be able to get to the UAE and definitely get into Saudi Arabia and Jordan and all of that. So if we hit Iran knows they're being hit, and their radars are going to be taken out zippity-doo-dah. Their total capacity is not going to be hit, and they're going to try to get even. Now, they can't reach Israel accurately anymore. So what do? Load soldiers on ships and come over here to invade us? We'll sink the ships. Put paratroopers on planes to paratroop into Israel and kill us? We'll shoot the planes down. Take their drone aircraft carrier or missile launching ships and bring them near Israel to attack us. Our submarines will sink them. Our planes will blow them up. So what do? They got to get even. They blame it on Trump. And they attack the American bases in these areas. Like Kuwait is right next door to Iran. They got 5,000 American soldiers there in bases. And then for good measure, hit a couple of oil refineries in Iran. Then they're going to attack heavily Qatar using their own land-based missiles, as well as, because now you're talking short range, and they're going to have short-range radar on these mobile launches. Plus, they have ships in the Persian Gulf with radar that can be used. They launch at these oil-producing countries in the Middle East on the Persian Gulf with their mobile missile launchers and directing missiles from the missile city. And they're going to go heavy against Qatar, which is a big air base where the Americans have a lot of aircraft, and Bahrain, which is a Navy base America has. And they'll start hitting American bases and oil refineries. And they'll get some hits. Are they going to get Israel? No, not really. I don't think so. If Israel does it right, no. Unless Russia or China says they're going to guide the Iranian missiles in. Now, China's in Egypt. How hard would it be for them to guide the missile? I'm sure they got warships by Egypt. They'll guide the missiles into Israel. Think about that. What could go wrong? Actually, that wouldn't work so good. The Chinese ships might be able to help the Houthis, but what China has is these stealth drones that are very, very hard to detect, and they would guide. These are big suckers, and they would be guiding missiles in, maybe. This would not go well with Israel. I do not know what the government of Israel would do about this, nor do I know what the government of America would do about this. I have no idea because it's so unprecedented. I think Israel would attack the source of these Chinese radars guiding the missiles in, but if it was a stealth drone, there might be nothing they could do about it. So Trump has Israel attack the nuke facilities, knock out the radar, cause Iran to get desperate. China might be somewhat hesitant about doing too much in the Middle East because America may unleash on them. So once China counterattacks against America, Trump doesn't have to worry anymore about being impeached because he didn't go to Congress to get a declaration of war on Iran and all this stuff, right? And then he unloads on Iran. So in the meantime, while he's bringing more and more weapons into Israel, he goes into negotiations which are idiotic with Iran. Trump's not an idiot. Trump's a rather smart person for president. The only president I could remember that had a good high IQ and could think was Clinton. Oh, he was twisted and deviated, but Clinton had a brain. Trump's smarter. Clinton spent his life in politics, which means you're a profound liar and a deceiver. Trump spent his life in business, which means you actually have to deliver. You can't just get up in front of people and make promises and break them all the time like politicians do. This is what I think the plan Netanyahu and Trump have. It keeps it protects Trump, it gets the war in Iran, it stops BRICS from progressing to devalue the dollar because he's got Ukraine destroying the oil refineries in Russia. They got about 30% of them, I figure. And with the new missiles from Germany, they're probably going to get another 15 or 20% of them. And then we stop the flow of the Iranian oil into BRICS. And then Trump pulls Saudi Arabia and the UAE into his camp, which they're pretty much in now. And that's that. America's doing military exercises with Saudi Arabia in the coming days. How about that? You hear that one? It's real. So I think the Saudis are either trying to walk on both sides of the street, Iran and America. But I don't think that that's stupid. I think they're just trying to shine Iran on so Iran keeps the Houthis from attacking them. Okay? And then they'll show their true colors that they're in bed with Trump, and Trump's going over there to visit Saudi Arabia in the near future. Probably visit Israel at the same time, but he might be afraid to, for obvious reasons. What does he do if Iran launches 15,000 missiles, just hoping one hits Trump? What does he do? Trump's probably waiting for the other two aircraft carriers to show up in the Middle East theater here. One of the other two on the way is pretty close. It might be here by the weekend even. Maybe. I don't have an update on the fourth one. If you put these aircraft together, with four of them, you're going to come up with 320 to 360 planes, plus what they got on the ground, plus what Israel has. Iran's quite scared. The Iranian people don't have bomb shelters and bunkers and that kind of thing, as far as I know. So, if Iran lost 3 or 4 million people, they don't care. They don't care. If they lost 15 or 20 million, that they would care about. That would destabilize them. checking the chat. Do I think Netanyahu is going to go through with this? Yeah, the way I got the pieces put together, if I'm right, and I think I am, yeah, he's going to go through with it. But you got to remember, there's so many moving parts. Something can go wrong, and the plans keep changing. Okay? Don't forget that. China and Russia may send 25 or 30 or 40 warships over by the Persian Gulf. Then what? I think the war in Iran is coming rather quickly, as evidenced by all the weapons coming in, and Israel conducting military exercises to defend against missiles from Iran. When I read prophecy, I don't read anything about Israel getting decimated, nothing like that. So I don't think anything super bad is going to happen. We don't read much about Tel Aviv in Bible prophecy, do we? No. But we don't read much about Haifa, Tiberias, or Netanya, or a million other cities. So you read about Jerusalem mostly. And the Galilee, which is not a city, it's a large region in northern Israel. So Turkey is likely going to sit back and let Iran get decimated because they don't like Iran. And they don't want to see Iran move back into Syria. China would like to see Iran move back into Syria, as would Russia. Gold almost hit 3,500 yesterday. I know it went up as high as 34.88 this morning in Israel time. Silver was at 32.51. Now, 3,500 as a resistance point is a substantial thing. Okay? Not as heavy of a resistance point as 4,000 would be. And the mother of resistance points in these days and times would be 5,000. Now, it may break 35, go to 35.30, 35.60, then go back to 34.40, and that kind of stuff may go on. But when we see something big happen, like an attack on Iran, or an Iran attack on Diego Garcia or American bases, they could do a preemptive attack. They could be negotiating with Trump like Japan negotiated with the United States just before Pearl Harbor. They were negotiating. They had negotiators in America while they hit Pearl Harbor. The Iranians are 100% capable of that level of deceit. No doubt about it. So they could each be playing each other within negotiations, knowing it's not going to work, but they think they're fooling each other. Now, Trump has plans for a digital currency. And that's no secret. It's been publicized. That's how he gets rid of the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Now, Trump and Elon Musk never publicly audited Fort Knox, did they? No. Do you think it's likely that these characters know what's in Fort Knox? Oh, yeah. What are the possibilities? One is the gold's not there, and they don't want to tell anybody, so they just dropped it. The other possibility, more likely, I think, is they'll do an audit and reveal it publicly. It may be a scam, it may not be real, or it might be real. They'll come up with an amount of gold, which Trump will use to back his digital currency, because BRICS is backing their currency also. So Trump waits till gold gets to $4,000 or $5,000 an ounce, and then he monetizes the new digital currency with a small fortune in money, gold. Putting a lot of credibility on Trump's digital currency, keeping people away from the BRICS version. So it's in Trump's best interest to run gold prices up. There's so many moving pieces, anything can go wrong anywhere along this thing they're structuring, okay? So many moving pieces. Russia, China, Iran, Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq. It's just massive, okay? So what happens? We got to wait and see. Remember, we're in the latter days, and there's going to be a lot of unexpected surprises and twists and turns. Sometimes things can go the way you think they'll go, and sometimes they don't. So if it looks like if Netanyahu sees he's really in dire straits for getting kicked out of office, he'll attack Iran with or without Trump, with or without Trump's blessings. Iran, Iraq, Yemen, counterattack, whatever they could do, and then Netanyahu throws the country into martial law. Closes the courts, closes this, closes that. Then what? Suspends elections. And when he suspends elections and uses martial law, he'll then just strip the Supreme Court of their power, get rid of the Shin Bet guy, get rid of the Attorney General, and run things with puppets, and the people in Israel will rise up like crazy about this. Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard place, and he can't get out from under it. Mm-mm. Trump is only going to help him to a point, and then Trump's going to wash his hands of him. Trump's not going to sacrifice his plans because of Netanyahu's criminal cases. So we're going to see America turn against Israel. Maybe Netanyahu does martial law in this big civil uprising in Israel. The military turns against the government and this and that. And Trump gets really scared about that. And he sends military in here to stabilize Israel. Of course, under Netanyahu, the dictator, King Bibi, or they were calling him Caesar Bibi. And that causes a lot of trouble. I don't know how it's going to play out yet. I know Iran will be destroyed by her enemies, and that's in Jeremiah 49. It's called Elam in the Bible, Elam, and that's going to happen. And there'll be troops inside Israel. And we're getting closer and closer to the end in the roundup, and we're starting to look at all these pieces, but remember, God can twist and turn this by the minute. So everything's going to come on us, and it's not going to be that accurately predicted, okay? Volcanoes are up, earthquakes are up, substantial earthquakes, all the birth pangs are there, And will this light the world up? Oh, yes. Don't think anything but, okay? Don't think anything but. Iran's not going to sit there and get dismantled without going down with a fight till their last breath. And they'll have to leave Iran. That's the scriptures in Jeremiah 49. It gets so busted up, they have to leave. So that would mean to me that Israel really bombed the daylights out of them, but more likely, Israel and America and other countries bombed the daylights out of them. Let me get in my notes to see what I have not told you yet. It's so hard. There's so much news. It's really hard to keep up with it, I'm telling you. Oh, we got prayer requests. Let's go through those, okay? First one, JG, Jack Girl. JG, Jack Girl. Peace, calm, and joy in the household for JG. Peace, calm, joy in the household for JG. The next one I just have, well, I think it's JN, I believe. Jack Normandy. JN, Jack Normandy. That's not the A, that's the initials. JN. Prayer is help with financial complications for JN help with financial complications. Next is for JM, Jack Mike. That's not the name, that's the initials. JM, Jack Mike. JM, healing on health condition. I guess it's a health condition. So JM, Jack Mike, healing on health condition. Next is NB, Normandy Bravo. NB, Normandy Bravo. And that's it. Normandy Bravo. Okay, this is answers and healing on the condition. So I believe that NB, Normandy Bravo, wants to know what the health problem is specifically and also asking for healing. Okay? So I'm very interested to see what the Yemen government does with the help coming from the UAE and Saudi Arabia to attack the Houthis, with America giving them air support, probably special forces advisors, and bombing the Houthis. This is going to be an interesting one to see. It's going to take the wind out of the Iranian sails to some extent. Not enough, but they're not going to like it. One of the things that the Shin Bet guy said about Netanyahu is Netanyahu told him that he wanted the Shin Bet head to listen to Netanyahu, not the Supreme Court. And that's an illegal comment coming from the prime minister. And he wanted the Shin Bet guy to go around and pick up personal information and background information on the protesters that are protesting his government. Now, that reminds me of Hitler and the brown shirts. You know, anybody opposing Hitler in the streets with speeches and things like that, they'd sig them on them, they'd beat them up or whatever. Let's see. Remember, Israel paving the way by knocking out the radars in Iraq and in Iran makes it so much easier for America to do the airstrikes. Okay. Shin Bet guy's going to release more data on Netanyahu because the two of them are in a death match, you might say. Netanyahu could wind up getting thrown out of office. The Supreme Court and the Attorney General might be able to do that. And who's going to take over next? Well, another Satan bot. And it would maybe be more right wing. I don't know. So if it's Smotrich or Ben Gvir, it would be a real fascinating event to watch. But I don't think they can pull it off. But you never know. So any day now, things can break out. Israel could hit Iran. Iran could hit Diego Garcia. Other places. Trump could hit Iran. It's just, guys, you should understand this. And the preppers are having a field day getting you to buy survival food and equipment through them, and they make a commission. Oh, they're having a field day. Gold and mining were the only stocks of super performing and rising. Well, the actual hard gold is what I follow. The other stuff is sort of like silly to follow. People buy what's called paper gold, and if all the people that own paper gold try to get redeemed it wouldn't work. It's um well, all I care about is they get rid of Netanyahu. I if they made a deal with Netanyahu, we won't prosecute you, but we're going to generate a court order you agree to that you will have nothing to do with any political party or politics for the rest of your life in Israel. That would be good. When Netanyahu flew from Hungary to see Trump, which is some days ago, Netanyahu had to be very careful what countries he passed over, because in case he had engine trouble and had to land, they could arrest him, or they could have interceptor jets force him down because he's a fleeing felon and arrest him. So that was an interesting scenario too. Let's take a look at gold now. Maybe it already broke 35. I don't know. It's a quick look. Let's take a look. I go to Kitco. KITCO. I think they're a very good source to go to. And we'll see what they're telling us. Let me refresh it. No, it's it's 34.45 and silver's 32.38. So it's not yet getting up there, but give it some time and it will. Once the war stuff gets elevated, it'll go. And this is a sign that people have no confidence in the economy. They have confidence in hard metal. So if you need something more exciting than this, I don't know what it would be. Then you have to also look at Iran threatened to attack America through the Gulf of America, formerly Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean area, which would probably be Florida. And that might be with their ships, container ships that are disguised and are really container ships. They launch missiles out of the containers and drones, and I don't know. China may do it. I mean, it's just a wild ride right now. Let's see if I got any questions. And Netanyahu will likely throw the country into martial law before he goes to jail, or he'll try it. Actually, he'll do this if they look like they're forcing him into court again. He sees that coming, he'll try to pull martial law. He doesn't have to suspend elections. He doesn't need to necessarily do martial law, except the Attorney General and the Supreme Court and now the Shin Bet head are all united against him. And how far is Trump going to go for Netanyahu? If he sees Netanyahu is so severely tainted that they're trying crazy to get him into jail or get him out of office, Trump's going to do what's good for Trump, and then he's going to drop Netanyahu like a hot potato and then just hook on to the next leader. And he knows plenty of people in the government of Israel anyway that would be advising him and stuff. So it's just a wild ride right now. Okay? You know, and I'm sitting here and I'm asking the Lord, am I right? Israel's not going to be destroyed very much by war before Zechariah 12 and the two witnesses burn the enemies up on the right hand and the left. That's Zechariah 12:6. Am I wrong about it? And, you know, it's getting me, you know, I don't think I'm wrong about it. He hasn't shown me where I'm wrong, so I don't think so. So these big attacks on Israel probably not ever going to happen. But the big attack on Iran and Iraq and parts of Syria and Lebanon and the stuff, that's going to happen. And Yemen's going to be decimated. That's called Edom in the Bible, Edom. So you should read Ezekiel 25 and Jeremiah 49, and you'll be well aware of some of the things that will happen. I think that's it. So you can email me with questions. My email is israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. It's at the bottom line down in the description box. It's up towards the top of the chat. And I'm Moshe, and please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy, and we don't have to go into the bomb shelters. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our finances. We always need help there, or we could always use help. Pray for the two witnesses to emerge openly in Israel. And that's a good thing for all you believers. Believe me, it's a good thing. And don't run from the two witnesses. Run towards them like a big brother. You don't run away from them. You don't have to. If you're not a believer, then you're not going to be in their favor. You got a problem with them. But if you're a believer, no, you don't have to run from them. Run towards them. They're here to help you. What do you think they're here for? What was Yeshua here for? To help you. To help you what? To help you get to heaven for eternity. That's what he was here for. Okay? If God just wanted to destroy everybody, he wouldn't have had to send Yeshua. He had to shut the place off, stop the oxygen, whatever. It's over, burn it up. No, they're here for your sake and your benefit. They're not here for their benefit and their sake. They're here for you. Okay? Apostle John and Elijah. Moses could not be one of the two witnesses. Why? The Bible says it's elected unto man to die only once. There's no examples in the Bible of people dying more than once. That's reincarnation. That's like India, Hindu, with the woman with the 8-armed statue they worship, Kali, whatever they call it. That's not our Bible, okay? All right. There's people like Melchizedek. When did he ever die? It says his days were without number. Enoch, when did he die? It appears he just was transformed to heaven. Perhaps that was his death in the blink of an eye. I don't know. Your redemption's going to come in the blink of an eye. Why blink of an eye? Why I? Why I? Because lift up your head, your redemption draweth nigh. Zechariah 12:10. They shall look upon the one whom they have pierced. John 6:40. If you're a believer and you see him, you'll have everlasting life. The unbelievers are going to see him, but they're not going to get everlasting life. They're going to get a lot of fear and turmoil. And remember, Jeremiah 30:11, God says he's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into. And in Amos 9:9, it says he scattered them into all the nations. And the same thing shows up in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. All the nations he scattered the Israelites to, he's going to destroy. And he's going to punish the Israelites, but their future is not the same as that. God says he's going to do to the heathens what they never heard of before. That's a scripture. This is going to happen on the day of vengeance. What a day that's going to be. Followed by the redemption. It's going to be amazingly good for us. It's not going to bring New Jerusalem. That brings us into the second 70 of Daniel 9:24, when the second 70 is over. And the moon turns to dark, goes dark, and the sun goes dark, and the stars fall like figs from the heaven and don't give their light. That's when Yeshua comes to earth, right after that. Before that, we see the moon go to blood and the sun go to dark. And that's going to precede the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, which the churches don't understand. The two things are not the same, or they do understand it and they don't want to teach it to you, because then you're going to be all kinds of pro-Israel and you're not going to be pro-churchianity. But that's what's going on. And you guys need to be ready to go on the next great Exodus, which is probably going to be a ball, because you'll have your eternal life, your everlasting life, rather. When that happens, you'll have a great time. Some will be carried over here. Some will get transported on animals. Some will go on the ships of Tarshish, which I believe is the cruise ships. And will some go on the airlines? I don't know. They may or may not be functional. I don't know. But when we hit redemption, that's when the nations are going to beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. When you get to Gog and Magog, they reverse it and they go back. They take the pruning hooks and make them into spears and the plowshares back into swords. But that's going to be in roughly 70 years. It's not going to be now. So we're going to have a long period of great happiness. And you all are going to have children like crazy. Will God reduce the gestation period down from 9 months? I don't know. I've been asking him. I haven't gotten an answer. Pray we get an answer. Is the birth going to be without pain? I don't know. Ask him. It might be the case. It may very well be the case that the women will give birth before the travail. In other words, no travail. Travail is a push, it's coming, push, maybe that's gone. It's part of a curse, right? Maybe the women don't get the periods. I don't know. These are things that occur to me. Pray for answers. We may get them. Ask him if he'll answer me, and then I'll share it and see what happens. Could be. We're going to be using gold and silver for money. The shekel is going to be based on gold and silver. So we're going to be using gold and silver for currency here. Anybody that has money these days in Bitcoin or other digital currency is crazy, because once the cables of the internet get cut, you could write off your digital currency. Once the power grids are gone, you could write off your digital currency. no power grids, and you have no digital currency because you have no internet, you have no phones, you have no this, no that, right? That's a dumb investment. Your best investment is gold and silver, hard metal. Carry it in your pocket. That's your best investment. That's not dependent on any country because all the nations are going to be destroyed. And that's when Israel goes up to be the head of the nations. In Israel that's redeemed, that's serving Jehovah. That's the only kind of Israel that's ever going to be the head of the nations, not Netanyahu. Could you imagine what he would do? Oh my gosh, what he would do. We don't see them in this. We don't see the government of Israel active in the Zechariah 12 siege. But we see this still there because we see them getting destroyed and burned up in Malachi 4. The beginning of Malachi 4 would be the government and the millionaires and the Satan bots. They get destroyed. So this, I guess, is still there, but maybe the military and the government's been dismantled. I don't know. When Elijah appears in Malachi 3 with the temple, training the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord, is the government still there or is the government gone? It doesn't tell us. The government may be afraid to try to stop Elijah for reasons of what he'll do to them or for reasons of the people turning against the government. I don't know. But I know Israel wants to get rid of Satan wants to get rid of Israel now because that'll stop the progression of end times. And I also know it ain't never going to happen. Ain't never going to happen. I figure on the property I rent, I could probably sleep easily 50 or 70 people. I could probably, maybe more. I mean, there would have to be sleeping bags, though, There'd be lines for the bathrooms. The place we have has 3 toilets, so that would be probably work. I've got, let's see, 2 real kitchens and outside cooking thing that runs on propane gas is, part barbecue grill, part burners with stoves. I mean, so you could even say there's a 3rd kitchen. We've got about, 40 trees growing fruit that you could eat on the property. There's a huge olive orchard adjacent to the property, a huge olive orchard. I mean, it's huge, but I don't know if you could live on olives, but I can tell you for sure you wouldn't starve to death on olives. You'd have carbohydrates and energy and stuff like that. You would maybe not feel up to your best, but if you ate 100 olives a day, you'd probably be fine. Or maybe it would take you 200 a day, but I'm just thinking here, God ain't gonna let it get to that for believers, though. He ain't gonna do that. But when the 2/3 go, which is probably right just before we're redeemed or at the same time, then there'd be a lot of houses empty in Israel. 2/3 go, so there'd be a lot of places to move into. And the next great exodus, I doubt, would start until redemption. It would, as I see it, is probably going to start at redemption when we see him, because the believers that see him are going to be changed with everlasting life. They're going to be like young again and all that, with plenty of energy. And my people's days will be like that of a tree. A child shall die at 100, that kind of thing. Be real easy for you to come over here compared to the way you are now for most of you, People that are under 40 or under 50 even aren't going to have much trouble, but the others would. But not when you have everlasting life. It means olam, like life on into an indeterminate future, but it's not that you can't die. That ain't it. That happens when you get in New Jerusalem 70 years later and you eat from the tree of life and the water of life. Then you can't die. You're still going to have a physical body, but there's no death in Jerusalem, it says. So why would you think you're going to die when it says there's no death in Jerusalem and you'll be living in there? What else can I tell you? I'll keep you posted. I keep following the news. Gosh, it knocks me out. I mean, I go into social media to look at posts and I see people 40 posts and I check them a couple hours before, a few hours before. 18 posts, 32 posts, 21. I mean, it's just amazing how much news there is. I don't put it all up. I've been streamlining it just to the real important things. It's amazing how much is going on right now. It's just absolutely amazing. Volcanoes are up, earthquakes are up, weather records are being broken, crazy weather all over the place. I don't know what else I can tell you. It's just crazy. So that's no, I don't know why, but the last several days I've been hearing a lot more helicopters. That was a helicopter than I usually ever hear. That was no Apache. That was a transport helicopter. I don't know what it's about. They're probably moving important people around. I have no idea. No idea. Is there going to be a ceasefire in Gaza? It looks like it might happen now with the Chinese there. Something might happen. But Trump's going to get upset and he's going to say, I want all those hostages back. So if they say, okay, we'll give you every hostage back, every dead body, we want you out of Gaza, and we want to have an international coalition of countries to guarantee you don't come back in and you don't restart the war. Well, that doesn't sound like somebody that won the war, does it? It might come to pass. It's stupid, but it might come to pass. It won't last. I don't know what countries they're going to get to monitor this ceasefire. Nobody's stepped up and said they want to do it, because if they're monitoring the ceasefire and Israel breaks it, then they got to go to war against Israel or something. I don't know. So I'm not so sure that's going to happen. So in any event, I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.